What's your go-to at McDonald's?
No, I'll tell you, Burger King. We did the, the double,
Whopper?
The double,
I haven't ripped Burger King in a long time.
Burger King kind of sucks.
Yeah.
My dream guess is Kim Jong-un.
Both
So
of
Kim
ours.
Jong-un, if you're watching this,
This is kind
we'd
of
love
like
to
that.
come to North Korea and interview you
All I
as
could think
well.
about is the interview when we're doing
I'm
this.
so down to pull up to Moscow and interview Putin too.
Yeah, we'll do everybody.
We're gonna invite a genocidal war criminal onto our show and just throw him softballs. Just hanging out, man, having a nice conversation, as the Nelk boys are doing, the tool boys, complete tool bags. That's where we're at right now. We've hit rock bottom in terms of the age of decadence of human society. We've hit such severe levels of apathy and degeneracy that is truly unforgivable. Now, I'm not gonna say everyone's like that. There are plenty of really good people who sacrifice a lot. They're doing tremendous work. Super intelligent people providing solutions to the world's problems, who are working very hard. Incredible people. But sadly, they are currently being drowned out by the noise. They're drowned out by the noise of nonsense and irrelevancy. Everyone today is a celebrity. Everyone's a rock star. Everyone's a content creator. I love that word, content creator. What are you actually creating with your content? What are you actually doing with your fucking life? Just a bunch of attention whores willing to invite anybody on your show at any time on any subject, as long as it gets you clicks, as long as it gets you views. That's all you care about. By you, I mean those people out there who do that kind of stuff. The Nelk boys, these clowns who pretend like they're journalists, or whatever. As we hit the point of no return with our environmental destruction, as we hit the point of tremendous income inequality, authoritarianism, with all the different feedback mechanisms, all the feedback loops, the negative, catastrophic feedback loops that are driving our civilization off a fucking cliff, I think it's time for people to realize that, you know what? No, not everyone has the right to their opinion. It's not okay for anyone to do anything they want to do. There are certain standards that we have to maintain when it comes to human values. There are certain red lines that we have to stand by. Draw that thick red line and stand by our word, that we can't break our code, Civilization is really in a crisis right now. We are at a point in human history where it's never been like this and never will be again. Because the choices we make now will determine the future of other generations, and it will have tremendous reverberations throughout history as we look back at this period. You guys knew this was happening, yet you chose to be just completely nihilistic about it. So in this video, I want to talk about why nihilism in this day and age must die. If we were to actually make any positive stride in a better direction for human society, not only human society, but our ecological systems, the animals, the plant life, and all life itself, nihilism must fucking die. It must die. Now, what is nihilism? Nihilism, in simple terms, is the way of thinking which basically says that, you know what? In the end, nothing really matters. The choices, the things you do doesn't really matter because life is meaningless. There's no point to life. So you might as well just live your life and without any discomfort. You should live life without any discomfort and do whatever you can to be happy and not bothered by the problems of the world. If you can avoid it, why not? You should just avoid it. Don't challenge yourself. Don't try to go against the power structure. It's kind of a fatalistic viewpoint on life, whereas like, okay, life is just a bunch of cells and, just germs and stuff, and it duplicates and then it dies off and it repeats again. There's really no purpose to life. And that's I would say one of the most destructive and dangerous ways of thinking there is in the world today, and it must change. So I had to change the camera angle because the sun was too intensely in my eye. It was bothering me. But in this video, I want to kind of provide a philosophical breakdown of my philosophy on life and why I think it's so important to be an activist, why we should try to change capitalism, try to destroy capitalism, and move to a world beyond capitalism. Why I think that's so important. And your life is not wasted if you're actually pursuing that path, okay? Like, why is it that apathy is so big in the world today? Why is nihilism so big of a concept in today's world? Why do so many people not care? To understand that, we got to go back in history a little bit, or a lot of bit. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they formed societies where, in general, they took care of each other pretty well. They didn't have inequality. They didn't have like women's oppression. They lived in egalitarian societies that cared a lot about mutual aid. Reverse dominance hierarchies, where basically anybody who tried to gain advantage over other people and rise to power, they would shut that down right away. Okay, so they lived in tremendous equality and there was no poverty. Okay, although they lived in very minimalistic terms, they had a minimalistic affluence in which nobody in the tribe was was isolated and kicked out, okay, and had to suffer. The whole tribe worked together to make sure the tribe, everyone in the tribe did well. Now, fast forward in human evolution and human history to dramatic changes in our social structure, where we now live in a world which is dominated by socioeconomic inequality because of our root socioeconomic orientation, okay, which is capitalism, which really goes back to systems of trade, competition, dominance, hierarchy, okay, patriarchy, basically looking at the world as an inventory for exploitation. In that kind of a world, which has been perpetuated for thousands of years, we've come to the end point, you know, basically you can call it end stage capitalism, where there's so much inequality, so much power imbalance in the world, okay? And the idea of status is so important, you know, where everyone's trying to climb for status, everyone's trying to feel important, because, you know, let's not kid ourselves, we are social primates. You know, a human being of today is the same human being as of 215,000 years ago, which was the origin of our ancestors, our hunter-gatherer ancestors. We're the same exact human being, Homo sapien, but we are social primates, which means we are deeply affected. We're deeply affected by the views of other people, and also in terms of where we gauge ourselves in the social system. Where we feel we are in relation to other people in our society, it impacts us tremendously on a biopsychosocial level, okay? So we are affected tremendously psychologically, emotionally, physically, okay? And there's been many, many studies on this, and we place a heavy emphasis on that. So when we live in a society where there's so much inequality, when somebody sees another person, when someone sees that another person has a better car than them, or a better job than them, you know, or makes more money than them, has more friends than them, has a higher social status, we live in such a disparate and so many distorted forms of value differentiation and value system disorders. People are constantly fighting not only for survival, which is what capitalism does to you, first and foremost. We're put in survival mode where we have to fight for our survival. We can't care about the well-being of other people because we live in an individualistic society. Individualism, competition are very, very emphasized in capitalism. So in that kind of society, people have to fight for survival financially, but also socially. So people have to try to climb the social ladder, and you care very little. There's very little to care about social problems or environmental problems. We live in that kind of a society. You care very little because you care first and foremost about making ends meet, making money, taking care of your family, taking care of your little tribe, and then try to gain status, try to get a better car, a better house, try to improve your social status on social media or whatever, you know, wearing better clothes. And obviously materialism plays heavily into that. Advertising plays heavily into that. We have an entire infrastructure, an entire social industrial complex, you know, maybe that's the word we can use, a social inequality and industrial complex, which the entire edifice of capitalism, from industrial perspective to advertising to all the media, everything, it works together to concoct a very toxic environment. The waters in which we swim through are very toxic. So given that kind of a world with immense inequality, tremendous exploitation, people have a lot of anxiety and a lot of suffering. In that kind of a world, there is very little to care about other people's problems. There's very little reason to care about other people's problems. And then also, when you factor in the propaganda promoted by our value system, by our economic system, which is like, okay, I hate the idea of like, you know, everyone has a right to their own opinion. So the Nelk boys, these fucking clowns who interviewed Netanyahu, they'll just say, hey, you know what, man, come on, man, like that's just the program we're running. That's just what we're doing. You know, you can do your own thing, but we're doing our thing, you do your thing. We're not killing anybody, we're not harming anybody. So, you know, why not do what we're doing, you know? Everybody has a right to their own opinion. That's what they say, right? When in reality, the more intelligent thing to say is everyone should have access to information, because I guarantee you, if people have access to information, to relevant information, education of sociology, history, true economics, not bullshit economics, when people are truly educated to behave like civilized human beings, they will be offended to their core at allowing someone like Netanyahu go on their show. Or if they have Netanyahu go on their show, they will press him hard. They'll embarrass him with facts. They'll brutalize him. They'll interrogate him. They'll say fucking shame on you for committing a genocide, for promoting a genocide. So that's what will happen if we lived in a truly civilized world. And so now, with that out of the way, now we understand. I hope I've given you a good understanding of why is it that people care so little. And again, it goes back to capitalism and why we must advocate for a world beyond capitalism. We must advocate for solutions that are complete diametrical opposites to the orientation, to the socioeconomic premise of capitalism. So going from competition to cooperation and sharing, going from private property to access systems, going from, the invisible hand of the market to intelligent feedback mechanisms that actually are guided by the process of science and objective thinking to arrive at solutions, not make decisions, but arrive at decisions, going from globalization to localization, okay? So all these things, going from private intellectual property to access, to open source. That is why when we move to a more civilized society, people will actually be much less nihilistic, okay, and much less apathetic when it comes to the problems of the world. Now, as far as philosophy, I want to talk to you about philosophy because actually, honestly, the reason I'm making this video, besides that thing that really bothered me with the Netanyahu video, because a friend of mine asked me the question. He said, "Hey, what's your religion?" Like, he's Christian. And I know there's many people in the world today are they're religious. They're either Christian or Jewish or Muslim. And so they believe in God, they believe in the afterlife. And so many religious people ask me, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in the afterlife, but I do consider myself to be spiritual. But many people ask me, hey, you don't believe in the afterlife, you don't believe in God, so why do you focus on doing good things? Why do you care about fighting against capitalism if you don't even believe in the afterlife? If there's no actual reward for you, if there's no reward for you in the end, why do you do what you do? And here's my answer. Here's my answer to religion. And I hope people are not offended. I respect people who are religious. I respect all people, okay, people's rights. I'm not trying to be offensive, but in my view, religion promotes, on average, tribalism. Religion promotes division. Because, you know what? This is my brand of morality against your brand of morality. And then also, religion seems to be actually an insurance policy, right? Think about that. So you're doing good deeds. You're doing good deeds to have your good deeds outweigh bad deeds, So when you have a little surplus, you have a net surplus of good deeds against bad deeds, you end up going to heaven and you avoid hell, that horrible punishment. So people are it literally goes back to classical conditioning, like the operant conditioning of, if you read the book Punished by Rewards by Alfie Kohn, which is your incentive structure is actually wrong when you're doing things to get money or some kind of external reward, as opposed to the internal intrinsic motivation to do good deeds, you end up not being good at what you do. So if you're trying to solve a creative task or some kind of task, you have an actual external reward at the end of that task, you end up not accomplishing it as good as if you were doing that task for the purpose of just doing the task. So if the actual reward is the task itself, you end up doing that task better than if you're actually influenced or motivated by external rewards. Okay, so this is why religion, in my view, in a middle ground kind of a way, religion is kind of similar to that, because it's you're doing good deeds because you're expecting to go to the afterlife. You're trying to go to heaven and try to avoid hell. So that's kind of an insurance policy, man. It's an insurance policy. Whereas people around the world who are not religious, they respect science, understanding science as a motivating factor for solving problems, because, objective reality tells us that science is the best way to understand reality and gets us to an actual conclusion on how to solve our problems properly, okay? Going back to my life, and the people who I know, I'm in touch with a lot of people who think the same way, who respect my viewpoint on this because they agree with me. We're just doing good deeds because, you know what? On an ecological level, on a humanistic level, I'm a human being on this planet, and I wish to give back to the planet that gave birth to me, that took care of me, okay? And so I'm just concerned about the well-being of other human beings. And that's spiritual and feeling within myself where, I'm sure you know yourself, if you've done something really good for somebody and you did not expect anything in return, if you've ever done something really good out of the bottom of your heart, out of the goodness of your heart or your mind, whatever, for somebody, and you did not expect anything in return, that's true spirituality. That is when you felt really good. I'm sure you know what I mean. If you ever done that, that really brought you a true reward. That was the most rewarding feeling you ever had in your life. And nobody can lie to themselves about this, okay? When you live in a world where people only do good things to expect some reward at the end of it, that is not true spirituality, to me at least, okay? And then when you look at, if you try to justify to yourself that being selfish and being apathetic and being nihilistic is the way to go, all the things that we take for granted, all the inventions, all the social rights that we have, all the human rights that we have, all the people who throughout history fought for us to have what we have, the things we take for granted, all the civil rights leaders, the human rights leaders, the scientists like Nikola Tesla, okay? So much of what we have today is due to inventions like, modern medicine, okay? what's his name? Not Louis Pasteur, even the other guy, Ignaz Semmelweis. Semmelweis, who was the first person who understood germ theory, okay? These people sacrificed their life, literally, okay? If it wasn't for these people, life would be much more difficult for all of us. But they sacrificed themselves, they gave their life to help us. Imagine if people in the world generally took on that role of trying to do good things for the world. It would be rewarded, it would come back to them a tenfold, a millionfold. Okay, so doing good deeds without the reward of wanting something, without the ideology of wanting something in return, that is the most powerful element of humanity. That is what truly gives us our strength. That is the most humanistic factor of humanity. Humans are the best at contribution, not at competition or exploitation. We are the best when we work together and we contribute to the world around us. We are the best at contributing. Now imagine if we all took on a little bit of that, a fraction of that way of thinking. How much faster the world would change in a better direction, as opposed to the fucking direction it's going right now. Just think about that. And so I really fear that we are losing our soul, you know, like what Martin Luther King called poverty of the spirit. I really fear we are at a point where we're collectively destroying our own souls, you know, and we have to fight against that as hard as we can. And, you know, final section, I want to talk about, you know, I don't believe in an afterlife, but I do believe in the idea of the regenerative cycle of life. Whereas, like, you know, when you die, there is a purpose at the end of all this. Life is not without purpose, okay? The purpose of life, I would say, is to continue and ideally to thrive, okay? And so when you die, the worms and the insects and the germs and other animals, they eat your body up and they use your life energy to further their life. And so in that way, life is in a very beautiful way. It's like recycled, you know, like the old Indian ideology that they had, which is like reincarnation, you know. So we really are all one. So potentially, like the energy that's flowing through my body, some part of that might have existed in the past in some animal form, you know. Right? So life is regenerated continuously. And I want to walk a little bit. It's so nice out. So yeah, you know, life is not without purpose. And I think the more we try to create a more civilized society that's actually rooted in science and technology and embracing science and objective thinking, the further we can advance and try to find out what really, truly, objectively is the purpose of life. So imagine being able to advance to such a high level where we eradicate poverty, get rid of all wars, and eradicate inequality, and have true happiness, a true harmony with nature, and be able to actually explore the stars. Imagine being able to explore the stars, space travel, being able to go to other planets, and really try to explore the very depths of space, which can actually give us more answers to what happens here back on Earth. Okay, and then also to advance so much to really become so scientifically literate and so scientifically advanced, we may one day understand what is the true purpose of life. Who knows? Maybe we can understand where life came from, have a true answer of where life came from. You know, beyond what I just told you, advancing society, doing what things are what intrinsically good for you. Beyond those answers, like there's so much to trying to advance society, because the more we advance society, the further we can have better answers as to what life is all about. Okay, and then the more we take care of one another, the more we eradicate problems, the more we can actually be at ease with ourselves and be content and be truly happy. I don't know about you guys, but I see so much anxiety, so much just irrational, like obsession over like gaining over other people, materialism, hedonism. It just creates a lot of suffering in today's world. And so going back to that like old Buddhist philosophy of like the tree holds the leaves, but the leaves also contain the tree within itself, which means that we are all one, really. And so if one person suffers, everyone suffers, you know? I believe in that. That's what I believe. And I don't want anyone in society to be suffering. I want us to take care of ourselves and do better for the world. You know, we can do better, we must do better. And so, anyway, that's my last message, final message to this. Nihilism must die. I think nihilism must be destroyed. It's pathetic, it's fucking shameful. And here's a part of me that, you know, gives a little bit of an angry activist message. These fucking weirdos out there who are just status obsessed clowns, who are just like clout chasers, who want to gain popularity and attention whores. These people must be re-educated, okay? They must be re-educated. And yeah, I do believe in talking to everybody, okay? I do believe in giving everybody a chance, but if you have a person like a Netanyahu or fucking Hitler on your show, like modern day Hitler, okay? Are you gonna just just shoot the shit, have a beer, have tea with modern day fucking Hitler and just chill out with them? Is that what you really want to do? You're okay with doing that? So there needs to be a certain level of shame induced on these people to not let them just fucking do whatever the hell they want to do, okay? If you have a big platform, I don't have a big platform, but if you have a big platform, you should hold yourself to a certain account. You should hold yourself to a certain standard that you don't just shoot the shit with a war criminal, okay? You do the best you can to hold yourself to a standard and present ideas that mean something, you know? Stop with the nonsense, stop with the bullshit. Present ideas that actually mean something, okay? If you're not sure about what to stand for in life, at least use your time. If you have the time, research and find out about human history, anthropology, economics, psychology, and try to understand what are healthy human values. If you can't do that, then I mean, I'm sorry, man, there's no hope for you, really. There's no hope for you. Anyway, with that said, that's the video as far as this one goes. Fuck nihilism, it's pathetic, it's a piece of shit. And it must be eradicated, it must be absolved, you know? We must do better as human beings. All right, peace out. See you guys next time.